أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم وعلى آله الطاهرين وعلى أصحابه الطيبين ومن استنى بسنتهم إلى يوم الدين ثم أما بعد. So we begin as we should and as we always do in the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the especially merciful. And we ask Him and Him alone to send His peace, His blessings, and tranquility and harmony and love upon the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, upon his pure family, his good companions, and any and all of those who would attempt to follow in their footsteps until the day that we meet our Creator. Allahumma ameen. So as what follows. So alhamdulillah, it is a tremendous blessing to be able to come back and start up our Tafsir class. We took a hiatus during the month of Ramadan, a much needed break to kind of recalibrate, reorientate, and focus ourselves. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the magnificent and the sublime, that He accept all of our fasting, our prayers, our standing, our charity, our good deeds, our dhikr, our looking after widows and orphans, the coming to the masjid, the being in the company of believers, brothers and sisters, and so on. And we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of that from us, that He make it purely for His face and His sake. And I hope that all of you had a blessed Eid in the company of loved ones, inshallah. And alhamdulillah, there are so many different blessings in engaging in and being a part of a halaqah, a gathering, a circle that revolves around the remembrance of Allah, the dhikr of Allah, and more specifically from His speech, i.e. from His kalam, meaning from the Quran, Kitab Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And actually, there is a hadith that I want to start with, where the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions some particular benefits and blessings from being in such a gathering. He mentions مجتمع قوم في بيت من بيوت الله يتلون كتاب الله ويتدارسونه بينهم إلا نزلت عليهم السكينة وغشيتهم الرحمة وحفتهم الملائكة وذكرهم الله في من عنده ومن بطأ به عمله لم يسرع به نسبه. That the apostle of Allah, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he mentions there isn't a group of people that come together in one of the houses from the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except that there are certain things that start to happen in the universe. There are certain things that begin to coalesce and that occur when they come together in one of the in the house from one of the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those things that happen are four. There are four different things that happen. And then once those four things happen, he gives us a reminder that, listen, you're not going to be hastened by your lineage or your background if you do not have the commitment to good deeds. If they're too heavy for you, it's too hard for you, man bata bihi amalu, it slows you down. Doing good deeds is too much. Just know that your lineage is not going to benefit you. It's not going to push you forward or bring you to the front of the line, so to speak, on Yom Qiyamah. And there are numerous benefits from this hadith. First and foremost, one of the things that we learn is that one of the activities of the believers, one of the activities of those who say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, is that they have some time, they have a share or a portion of their day, their week, or their month that is committed to coming together with other believers. And not only that, more specifically, in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is extremely important because if anyone wants to see the vitality and the spiritual health and the cohesion of a community, they have to be together. And a part and parcel of that is physically, they have to come together. They have to be with one another and enjoy each other's company. And then he doesn't simply just say that they come together just to have a barbecue or to eat some food or to just, talk about old times and nostalgia and how things were back in the day, or even about business or whatever. But they come together, right, for a very specific purpose. right? يَتْلُونَ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ, reciting the book of Allah. And it's not just limited to the recitation of the Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Not just that, وَيَتَدَارَسُونَهُ بَيْنَهُم, and that they study it. They delve into it. They're going back and forth, discussion. I read to you, you read to me. We're making review, muraja, and digging deeper into the Quran. And then where are they doing this? In one of the houses, from the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another point from this is that what? That the masjid is just that, the house of Allah. It is not something that belongs to the imam. It is not in the ownership of the board or the management team or the biggest donor and the sponsor who gave money and maybe their name is on a plaque. That does not imply or entail that they own the masjid. And unfortunately, sometimes Muslims lose sight of this. And they behave in such a way and in such a manner where as if the masjid is their house, where they want to park, where they are in the front row, when decisions are to be made, what the masjid should look like, who speaks, who doesn't speak, what is going to be the agenda of the masjid, and so on and so forth. But the Prophet ﷺ, he says what? From the houses, or they come together in the house, from one of the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this we have to remember. The masjid is the house of Allah. وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. And the masajid, they belong to Allah. So don't call on others besides Him. Not anyone, not anything. Not your own personal agenda, not your political agenda, not your ethnic group, not your tribe, not your whatever. The masjid belongs to Allah. And if the masjid belongs to Him, it's His house, then that means everybody who walks through the doors, they are all what? They're guests. They are guests of His house. You're a guest, I'm a guest. Even if a kafir, he walks through the door, he's a guest. And as such, there's a certain treatment, there's a certain dealing, there's a certain interaction, there's a certain conduct that's supposed to happen for your guests. In Islam, one of the hallmark characteristics is the honoring of your guests and looking after your guests. Making sure that they're comfortable, making sure that they enjoy your company to the extent that they want to come back again. And that's in your own home. So how much more should that be when they're the guest, not of you, not your family, not your wife, not your cousin, not your relative coming to visit you, but they're the guest of the Creator of the heavens and earth. How much more should we treat them? Or how much better should we treat them? But that's a whole other topic. The point though is that what? They come together in this group activity, this communal, congregational activity that is revolving around the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is in the best of places. أَحَبُّ الْبِلَادِ إِلَى اللَّهِ مَسَاجِدُهَا. The most beloved places on the face of the earth to Allah are the masajid. What should be for you and I, home away from home. If anything, this should be our place. That we are comfortable that this is our place. But that happens when what? When they're all on the same page, why they came together, why they entered that place in the first place. And that we're all, in that regards, we're all, when we walk through the door, we're all guests. So then, moving past that, right? If they do that, and that's why they came together, and that's their agenda, إِلَّا نَزَلَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّكِينَةُ. And tranquility will descend upon that community. Tranquility will descend on those people and those congregants. Right? And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure everybody here, myself for sure, we all need tranquility in our life. There's always some kind of turmoil, there's some kind of trouble. If it's not one thing, it's another. Stress, anxiety, thinking about the past, worrying about the future, right? Things that we shouldn't be doing, but sometimes that's how it is in the dunya, right? As faithful, as Muslims, as believers, we should be living in the moment, because the past it's the past. There's nothing you can do about it, except for make tawbah. In the future, you don't even know if you're going to make it. So all you got is right now. And so no doubt having tranquility will help calm your mind and calm your heart. And of course, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in the Quran? أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنَّ الْقُلُوبِ. Isn't it by the remembrance of Allah, and of course the Quran is the greatest remembrance of Allah, isn't it through that remembrance that the hearts find rest, tranquility, ease, to be settled, to be calm? And this is what you get. إِلَّا نَزَلَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّكِينَةُ. That's number one. And we all need it so bad. وَغَشِيَتَهُمُ الرَّحْمَةُ. And then that those, again, that community and those people engaged in that activity are surrounded, engulfed, and enshrouded by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And is there anybody here who doesn't need that? Is there anybody? Raise your hand. No. You don't need the mercy of Allah? And no, all of us, we need it, for sure. We all need the mercy of Allah. As a matter of fact, you and I and anyone else, including Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no one will go to paradise except by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned this, the companions, they thought that was odd. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ. That he, the one who's been forgiven for anything that may come from him, past or present, or excuse me, future. Whatever, he's forgiven. They said, وَلَا أَنْتَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. He said, وَلَا أَنَا إِلَّا أَنْ يَتَغَمَّدَنِي اللَّهُ بِرَحْمَتِهِ. He said, not even me. I will not even get into paradise except that Allah enshrouds me, engulfs me, and covers me up in His mercy. Being engaged in learning the Quran, studying the Quran, delving into the Quran as a communal activity in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the second thing you get. The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to all experience His mercy. And then he goes on, وَغَشِيَتَهُمُ الرَّحْمَةُ وَحَفَتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ. And then the third thing is that they are surrounded by the angels. Part of our belief as Muslims, one of the pillars of faith, Arkan al-Iman, as is mentioned in the hadith of Jibril and other places, right? Throughout the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, right? And other places, it's mentioned what? Al-Imanu bil malaika, belief in the angels. That they are beings that are created from light. That they don't experience hunger, they don't tire, and their only purpose and their only desire is to fulfill the wishes and the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about the angels. لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. They don't disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the slightest. They simply carry out His commands. They do not even have free will. All they do is praise and worship Allah day and night. That's it. Nothing else. And so that comes in different forms and manifestations, whether it be through their fulfilling the command of carrying the rain, whether it be about taking care of the hellfire, whether it be about protecting human beings by believing and the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or writing down their deeds, good or bad. The one who blows the horn, Jibril alayhi salam, who's in charge of bringing down the wahi to mankind from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to human beings, to the end of it. But the point though is that what? These beings, these tremendous, magnificent, beautiful creatures that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, right? Simply for His worship, they surround any gathering where they are remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Matter of fact, they scour the earth looking for that. And we believe that they are real, that they exist. And, right, per this hadith, that would mean they are here right now. وَحَفَّتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ. And they come. And when they are scouring the earth and they find a gathering where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being glorified and being praised and His name is being exalted, then once they find that place, then they call others to it. And they come and they come and they come and they come and they stack one on top of the other. It's the third thing, being surrounded by the angels. Because they only want to be in a place where good is mentioned, where positivity is reigning, where people are either worshiping, remembering, reflecting, etc. And then the fourth thing, وَذَكَرَهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي مَنْ عِنْدَهُ. And this really, brothers and sisters, is more than enough than the other three. Is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions them by name with those who are with him. And of course, who's with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But the angels. And so that would mean, but that would entail, that what? That the angels Jibreel, Mikael, Israfil, they would know you by name. And who's the one who told them? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That he mentions you. Because of you taking the time. Because of you putting in the effort. Because of you getting ready and dressed. Because of you getting in your car. Because of you making the time. You scheduling, making your appointment, getting daycare, whatever it is. Making the arrangements to be able to come to his house. To read, study, learn, or hear about his book and his words. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you did that, he's mentioning you, his humble servants, and mentioning you to the angels. Or mentioning, yes, your name to the angels. Allahu Akbar. This should be more than enough for us to want to be a part of, be engaged in, right? In circles of knowledge, and in particular about the Quran. These four things. However, if but if you're slowed down by good deeds, that's too much for you. It's too hard, it's too challenging, it's too much. I got too much of the dunya. All right, just know that for sure, right? There is no gonna be you being moved forward to the front of the line because of your lineage, or because your dad is so-and-so, or your uncle was so-and-so, or because don't you know who I am? Don't you know I'm such and such? I have this in front of my name, these letters in front of my name, whether it's doctor or MD or PhD, whatever it is. But your lineage will not hasten. That's how we do when we deal with people, right? Oh, that's my cousin. Oh, that's my uncle. Oh, we're from the same tribe, or we're from the same country, or we're from the same clan, or we're from the whatever. But that's not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala operates. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentions in another hadith that إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَى صُوَرِكُمْ وَلَا أَجْسَامِكُمْ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَنْظُرُ إِلَى قُلُوبِكُمْ وَأَعْمَالِكُم. And in some narrations, وَإِلَى أَمْوَالِكُم. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَى صُوَرِكُمْ وَلَا أَجْسَامِكُم. In some narrations, وَأَمْوَالِكُم. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he does not look at your shapes, your sizes, and your forms. And like we said in some narrations, you're like your wealth or your money. Because he's the one who made you, your complexion, shape of your nose, your hair texture, right? All of those things that people are so proud of. All those things that people designate what's beautiful, what's not beautiful. People who strive and get all kinds of surgery and modifications and additions and subtractions to their body, right? To meet those kind of standards, that's not Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala standards. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't care about that. But rather he looks at your what is in here, your heart, who you really are, what type of man you are, what type of woman you are, right, on the inside, what you believe, your values, what are your red lines, like this is what I stand for, or stand on 10 toes as they would say today, that this is who I am. And then of course, وَأَعْمَالِكُمْ, then what you do about it. What actions do you have coupled with those beliefs? That's what Allah cares about. So, subhanAllah, may you ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this a gathering that's beneficial, one that where we experience tranquility, and that we experience the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he surrounds us by his angels, and that he mentions us by name in those gatherings. Ya Rabbal Alameen. Allahumma ameen. So, alhamdulillah, today we're here to cover Surah Al-Humazah, inshallah, as we continue in the Tafsir of Juz Amma. And this is something that is very important, because not specifically Surah Al-Humazah, obviously the entire Quran is important, but in particular, why not study Surah Al-Kahf, or Surah Maryam, right? Or better, Surah Yusuf. Beautiful story of the Quran. One of the few chapters of the Quran that was revealed entirely as one chronological story, like right from beginning to end. Him as a young man with his family, going through his entire life up until he is a grown man who is now a minister of finance in the kingdom of Egypt. Or why not, like I said, mention Surah Al-Kahf. There's a number of stories in there. number of wisdoms, right, and so on. Why not Surah Al-Baqarah, which is one of the most comprehensive, and it's the longest surah in the Quran that has so much wisdom. Many of the Salaf, the companions, they used to consider if you had memorized Surah Al-Baqarah and understood it, right, you are like a faqih, because of how many legal rulings, injunctions, and so on are encapsulated and entailed in that surah. The reason why we chose Juz Amma is because for the overwhelming majority of Muslims, the 9-to-5 lay Muslim, the Uber driver, the stay-at-home mom, the, student, whether high school, college, the dad, the mother who is a nurse, whatever, most of us know, at the very least, all of, if not a significant portion of Juz Amma. And really throughout your day, your week, when you're at work, when you're doing different things, most often than not, you end up reading those portions of the Quran. And that's the reason why we chose to focus on the Tafsir of Juz Amma. And inshallah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to, hopefully we will go to the Tafsir of Surah Al-Kahf and Yusuf here in this masjid, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. But all in due time. So, inshallah, like I said, we're here to cover Surah Al-Humazah. Is there anybody who would want to read the surah for us before we go on, inshallah? Shay?
Me?
Yeah, bismillah. I mean, you got the Musaf.
Yeah, I don't really need it, but I'm gonna take it just in case. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويل لكل همزة لمزة الذي جمع مالا وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده كلا لينبذن في الحطمة وما أدراك ما الحطمة نار الله الموقدة التي تطلع على الأفئدة إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة.
Brother, you got the translation in there, brother? Yeah. Play this. Does somebody have the translation? Even if you bring it up on your phone, you have somebody read the translation, inshallah. And if you got it, brother, if you don't mind, you reading it?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the translation.
Yeah, don't you got it?
Woe to every backbiter, slander, who amass wealth greedily and count it repeatedly, thinking that their wealth will make them immortal. Not at all. Such a person will certainly be tossed into the crusher. And what will make you realize the crusher is? Question mark. It is Allah's kindled fire, which ranges over the hearts. It will be sealed over them, tightly secured with long braces.
خلاص؟ طيب جزاك الله خير. طيب. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ويل لكل همزة لمزة الذي جمع مالا وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده كلا لينبذن في الحطمة وما أدراك ما الحطمة نار الله الموقدة التي تطلع على الأفئدة إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة. So the first thing we want to know about the surah is the names of the surah. And there are a few different names of the surah. Some of them are what's known as tawqifiyya, meaning it's either specifically mentioned in the Quran or mentioned in by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and khalas, that's the name, and there's no debate about it. And then there are other names that are what you call asma'uha al-ijtihadiyya, which are names that either scholars or even companions or tabi'een extrapolate and kind of come to the conclusion that, okay, because this word is in there, it becomes commonly known by a particular name, usually based on words that are mentioned in the surah itself. So the first one, which is obvious, is Surah Al-Humazah. And this is what it's most commonly known as, right? And this is what you're going to find in the Masahif, in most of the books of Tafsir, Surah Al-Humazah. And then the second one that is mentioned, and this is actually mentioned by Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, that they call it by, and this is also something that happens, is the first ayah of the surah being called as the name of the surah. So rather than referring to it by one name, one word, they would say Surah Waynun Likulli Humazatin Lumazah. So for example, on multiple occasions, the Prophet ﷺ, he would tell a companion, shall I not teach you the greatest surah or chapter in the Quran? And then he would go on to say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, as opposed to what we would commonly say. What surah is that? Al-Fatiha. But he called it what? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Right? As if that was the name. And so that's the second one. And that's where it comes from. Waynun Likulli Humazatin Lumazah. Another name is Al-Hutamah. Al-Hutamah. And again, this is one of the words that's mentioned in the surah itself. Al-Hutamah. And another one, and this is actually in some Masahif, is Al-Humazah, right? Which is also one of the words in the surah. So far we got 3 or 4, rather. Humazah, Lumazah, Hutamah, and Waynun Likulli Humazatin Lumazah. Right? Now, as far as when was this surah revealed, right? By ijma' or by consensus, all the companions and scholars of Tafsir, that it is Surah Makkiyah, that it came down in that era or that period, the Meccan period, which is not necessarily related to time, but more so related to the migration of the believers and Prophet Muhammad ﷺ from Mecca to Medina. And we talked about that in the beginning of the class when we started, right? That there's a distinction between those chapters that were revealed in the first 13 years rather, of Revelation, when the believers were still in Mecca, and those chapters and those surah and ayat, they have certain characteristics. There's a greater focus on aqidah, the belief in the Day of Judgment, accountability, life after death. It's anybody who fulfills those characteristics. And we'll mention what those characteristics are, inshallah. He says it's talking about anybody. It's general. It's not specific about any specific person or group. So long as that person, whether it was in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, a few years after, well after him, up until now. That's what it, if they have those characteristics, that's what Allah's talking about. And then there are others who say, no. It is specifically about some specific people, right? As to the reason why it's revealed. It applies to other people, but the reason behind it is some specific people with some specific actions. So for example, it's mentioned here, right, that, for example, a man by the name of Al-Akhnas ibn Shurayq, right, he was one of the people who used to backbite, right, and disrespect the Prophet ﷺ, whether behind his back, whether amongst different groups of people, in different gatherings, or even to his face. Al-Akhnas ibn Shurayq, right? And then there are even other narrations that's mentioned by Ibn Jarir, that it's not only this man, Al-Akhnas ibn Shurayq, but also Al-As ibn Wa'il, Jamil ibn Ma'mar, Al-Walid ibn Mughira, Umayr ibn Khalaf, right? And there are a number who specifically say this, Umayyad ibn Khalaf, and these are kind of like the Sanadid of Quraysh. These are like the heads of the Quraysh, kind of like the movers and shakers in that community, the decision makers, when it came to how are the Quraysh going to move, how are they going to deal with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his followers. They kind of made those decisions, and then people followed their lead, right? In the community of the Quraysh and Mecca at that time. And so they're saying it's these guys that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about. Because of the consternation, the problems, the issues, and how ardent they were in their opposition to the Prophet ﷺ and the believers, right? And in particular, in what they used to say about it, right? So of course then, it means we have what? That it applies to, that it's, the reason why is because of these men, and they were disrespectful, talking about the Prophet ﷺ, mocking, etc., and making Humazah and Lumazah. And then it's them that are the cause, but it applies to anybody who has those characteristics. It applies to anybody who has those characteristics. So now, you want to just say, what is the general layout of the surah? Like, what is the general theme of the surah? Like, what is it mainly talking about? Like, the main idea of the surah. The main idea of the surah that is being conveyed, brothers and sisters, is essentially the danger of the tongue. The danger of the tongue and some of the different ways that it can get somebody to be in danger with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the dangers of the tongue and the different ways that that happens, the different ways that people slip up and fall up, right? Or outright delve and dive head in. And then also the danger of materialism and being overly concerned and rather consumed by the dunya. Money, stocks, houses, real estate, cars, gold, jewelry, cryptocurrency, whatever it is. Being over, like, that is all I'm about. Being materialistic, right, to your core. Now, obviously, you have to have some materials. You need clothes, you need money, you need food, you need shelter, you have responsibilities. You have charges, you have things to take care of. School, work, bills, mortgage, rent, etc. You have so many things you got to take care of. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَنْسَى نَصِيبَكُم مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Don't forget your share in your portion of this world. We're commanded to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Ar-Razzaq, Ya Ar-Raziq, the one who provides. We're supposed to ask him for our provisions. But at the same time, the danger of materialism and being consumed by it. And then, of course, lastly is the consequences of those two dangers and what they ultimately lead to, right? Which is, wa'iyadu billah, the hellfire. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. And some of the descriptions of the hellfire and some of the tortures and experiences that someone will have therein. This is the overall theme of the surah, or the main idea of the surah. Right? Now, as far as the first ayah, وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ or نُمَزَةٍ. Now, so the first word, wail, the first word is wail, right? And this has a few different meanings. The first is that it is like a wound, right? We don't typically say it anymore. It's more like Old English where someone would say woe to you, right? But it's like warning to you. Like, yo, I'm telling you, watch out. You ever seen somebody, right, who's about to get into a fight, but maybe they don't want to? And they say, yo, I'm telling you, back up. You better watch out. It's not a game. Woe or wail is like that. It is a warning, a dire warning. Danger, right? And another opinion as to the word wail is that it is a valley from the valleys of the hellfire. That is one of the valleys in the valleys of the hellfire, and the name of that valley is Wailun, right? And no matter which way you slice it, definitely the name of it being Wade, a valley in the hellfire, and it being said Wade as a warning, no doubt it fits together, right? And definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioning whether it's, he's saying a valley in the hellfire, no doubt that's a warning, right? But I know him that it is a place in Jahannam that has, some of its descriptions is that it is a valley that has rivers flowing in it. Allah musta'an and Allah. I'm just mentioning what it says here. That is made river that flows from the pus and of the wounds of the people of the hellfire. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects us. And so it is like a curse of destruction when it is invoked. All right, and the word likulli humazatin lumaza, and likulli means for every single one. Every single one, what? Who has one of these two characteristics or both. That they are humaza and lumaza. So humaza, as is mentioned by Ibn Abbas, and I should say on the outset that there are multiple different opinions regarding the meaning of the words humaza and lumaza. And some of them they say, so Ibn Abbas, for example, he mentions that it means slanderer, meaning someone who says something that's not true, they outright lie, right? Like defamation of character. And they do it specifically to cause fitna between people, right? And that causing fitna between people, does anybody know what that word is in Arabic? They usually have when someone goes back and forth between people or mentions things.
Is it confusion?
They're definitely sowing and causing confusion, but the word in Arabic. Huh? Is it? Namima, right? When you go over here and you tell somebody, hey, did you hear what so-and-so said about you? Yeah, man, personally, if that was me, if they said that to me, man, huh? And everybody knows, and y'all laugh because y'all know what that means, that somebody's trying to instigate and start something, right? That's exactly what namima is. And then also that lumaza is when they find faults in other people, whether it be organizations, whether it be scholars, students of knowledge, friends, family, that they essentially looking for faults in other people, right? Another opinion is that humaza is backbiting, right? Now, Ibn Abbas, he said that first one is what? That they're slandering. And then now there's another opinion that it is backbiting. And then backbiting, humaza, would be behind their back. And lumaza is that you do the same thing, but to their face, right? And so, subhanAllah, some of the companions, when they asked about, we said backbiting, right? Which is ghiba. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentions that it is dhikru akhaka bima yakra. To backbite somebody is to simply mention something that your brother or sister does not like, that they don't appreciate that, that they don't want to hear that, right? And the thing is, right, that's if it's true. And also, oftentimes, when people are backbiting, they will use the excuse that, oh no, it's all good, I will say it to his face anyways, so it's not really backbiting. Or I'd say it to her face, or I did say it to her face. And what they don't realize is that whether you say it to their face, whether you say it to their back, if it's true, behind their back or even in front of their face, it is still backbiting, it's still ghiba. Why is that? Because the Prophet ﷺ gave a definition. He said, ghiba is simply to mention something that your brother or sister does not like. So that means even if it's true, somebody might be a certain height, somebody might be sensitive about something, they might have a scar or a wound or whatever, they might have some type of condition. As long as it's something they don't want you mentioning about it, that would embarrass them, that would hurt them, that would make them feel demeaned and less and little, then you're not supposed to do that. Right? And just because you were, quote unquote, thinking that you're brave to say it to their face does not mean that it's not still backbiting. And subhanAllah, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes ghiba in speaking about people, whether behind their back, whether in front of them, so long as you are demeaning, belittling, disrespecting them, or saying something that they don't want you to say. And again, it could be true. They might be 5'2", 5'1", 5 foot. They might be. But you calling them shorty to their face. This is the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes it. He mentions in Surah Al-Humaza, right? He mentions, أَيُحِبَّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَنْ يَأْكُلَ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ مَيْتًا فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. Right? He says, speaking about ghiba, would you like to eat the flesh of your dead brother or sister? أَيُحِبَّ أَحَدُكُمْ. Would you love that? To eat the flesh of your dead brother or sister? And I want you to think about the imagery that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is conjuring up for us when you read that. Take a moment and think about that. Do we have siblings? I have siblings. Anybody here have siblings? Brother, sister? Of course. Most of us do. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. May Allah bless your family. Allahumma ameen. Now, subhanallah, Allah says, if they were dead, your brother was dead, or your sister was dead, would you like to go to their corpse and take a bite out and tear that off in the flesh? This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing someone who is engaged in ghiba. Because that's vile, that's disgusting. That's worse than cannibalism. That is cannibalism. وَعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. One of the worst things that a human being could do. Right? And this is the imagery that Allah wants us to conjure up at the mere idea of speaking about, talking about our brother and sister in a way that they don't like. Y'all understand that? I'm sorry. Does that make sense, y'all? This is what, right? That's the way, that's the similitude that he gave when talking about that. So now, and there are numerous other opinions, but regardless, because of time, we'll just say that all of the opinions, they all revolve around the dangers of the tongue. And so I want to ask you all right now, right? What are some of the ways that the tongue can get us in trouble? And what are some of the other dangers aside from ghiba and talking negative? Yes? Aklul haram, okay. Right? Yeah, that's putting it in your mouth. Okay. Tayyib, I'll take it.
Like pride kibir. Pride maybe like talking too much, perhaps.
Talking too much? Oh man, I'm gonna be in big trouble then. I know a lot of time.
I mean, in terms of like not being humble, in terms of like a pride, like a sense of too much pride.
Too much pride. So give me an example of pride being expressed on your tongue. Like what?
Like saying, like boasting, I guess.
Bragging.
Yeah.
Like they say, like people who know it all.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
They think
Yes,
they know everything.
Yes. Exactly.
Nah. And that going back to their pride
Yes.
and their arrogance.
Yes.
Nah. Definitely. That they're always talking about themselves or accolades and so on. Yeah.
Excuse me, I would think lying.
Lying, of course, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he warns against this. That, subhanAllah, that kadhib leads to fujur, right? That it leads to even worse disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that lying, somebody could lie, and that lie, when they continue to do so, can spread all over. Right? All over the world. One lie. Right? And if you think of in today's context, in today's time, with social media, somebody could say something in their little corner of the world, in their room, by themselves, one thing, and it could spread all over like wildfire. Right? And this could be حتى يكتبوا عند الله, right? Until they are written with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as that is who they are, that they are a complete and utter liar. Not somebody who just once in a while, but that they lie and they lie until they are written as that's a part of their name, like who those people are. Well, yeah, and of course that leads to nowhere but the hellfire. So lying, and of course with pride, I almost forgot that is throughout the Quran. That's the downfall of Shaitan. That's a part and parcel as to what caused him to be exiled and to be banished from paradise. He said, "Ana khayrun minhu." When he was commanded to bow down to our father Adam, he said, "I'm better than him." خلقتني من نار وخلقته من طين. I was created. You created me from fire, oh Allah. And you created him from clay, from dirt and mud and water. That's nothing. Fire is all powerful, consuming, right? It blazes. It eats up everything else. Come on, that's prideful and arrogance. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that no one will enter paradise who has even the smallest amount of pride in their heart. They will not be able to enter paradise. So what are some other ways? طيب ايش هو؟ حسد. طيب كيف يجري هذا على اللسان؟ نعم لكن أسألك نعم لكن هل هذا في القلب أو هذا على اللسان؟ كلاهما؟ No. All right, so she said being jealous, right? And you can see some people, right? What? Okay, how come they get to have that and I don't? Right? Okay, now being content, right? And wishing what other people, not only do you wish what other people have, jealousy or hasad, is not only do you want what others have, you wish they didn't have it and you did. And that's why that's so dangerous. Right? Play it. What else? What are some ways that you can get in trouble with your tongue? Arguing, being combative, being negative, right? And this is something that the Prophet ﷺ, right, commanded us not to do. Yassiru wala tu'assiru, bashiru wala tunaffiru, right? Be easy. Yassiru. And when allowed, make things easy for the people. Don't make things difficult. Don't be hard, right? And give glad tidings. Right? Don't turn people away. And no doubt, being negative and argumentative, right, does nothing but turn people away. That's for sure. No. Play it. What else, say?
Talking back to others.
What does it say in the Quran? وَلَا تَخُنْ Sure.
How about cursing?
Cursing?
Yeah.
Well, hold on a second.
Oh,
You know who I'm talking to.
sorry.
وَلَا تَخُنْ أُفٍ Right? Don't even say oof to them. To your parents. Don't even say oof to them. How often does that happen? They might be on the, somebody's on the phone talking to their friends, and their mom, dad says, come and wash the dishes. They're playing a video game, they're doing something, they want to go outside, they want to go with their friends. They ask you to help me, give me a ride. I need some help. Can you fill this out for me? Can you do this for me? Every time. Why can't you ask him? Why can't you ask my brother? Why can't you ask the sister? Why it always got to be me? And it's so common. You know, I just had parent-teacher conferences at the school I work at, and I was meeting some of the students and their parents, and I would see, right, the kids who were generally well-behaved in school, right, I can take a guess already how their interactions are with their parents and stuff. And then when you would see, when they come with their parents, they're the same deal. If they were well-behaved at the school, once their parents come, do the same thing. I ain't got nothing to do with the same. But oftentimes you see their behavior at school. If there was issues with behavior, you would see like how they are with their parents. And subhanAllah, man. Some kids, they be talking to their parents like they grown. and be arguing back and forth. A parent would be like, why are you raised like this? It's not my fault, Mom. It's not my fault, Dad. It's da-da-da-da. And then just start arguing, even raising their voice. Even sometimes I would have to be like, hey, you don't talk to your mom and dad. That's what you're doing, right? That is something that is so common, and yet it is so dangerous. The Prophet ﷺ mentions, right, that a person will say a word, kalima, la yulqi laha bal, and they pay no mind. They don't think of it as being a big deal at all. La yulqi laha bal. And because of that word, they are thrown more than 70 leagues into the hellfire for that one word. What they said, because of the gravity of it, because of what they were saying. And no doubt, this being disrespectful, not honoring, not looking after, not taking care of, not venerating and respecting parents is from the major sins in Islam. It is from the kaba'ir in Islam. It's a major sin. SubhanAllah, a cardinal sin. And obviously there are so many others, brothers and sisters. The brother he just mentioned, and I'll finish this, the last one though, is the cursing, right? That sometimes you get into an argument with somebody, right? And it's just a disagreement, and that's all it is. And there's other times where you get into an argument with somebody and they immediately go to curse words, swearing, the F word, the H word, the B word, the S word, all kinds of things. Over everything. That it turns into something like that, and they got the mouth of a sailor. And this is also something that is widespread amongst young people today. Allahu Ta'ala. I mean, even when I'm in the masjid, and I hear young people, right? I'm talking about as young as kindergartners, right? Not the school I'm at now. Another school I used to work at, subhanAllah. It used to be from K till 12th grade. And my brother, he is a gym teacher. He was a gym teacher, and still is. And he was a gym teacher in the elementary school. So sometimes, and I was a dean and an ESL teacher in the high school. So I would come and visit him in the gym. And there would be kindergartners, first graders, second graders, third graders. And they would be saying, dropping the F word, and saying things like, and y'all know what the words are. I don't need to even, read to them, right? And it would be like jarring to me. I'd be like, this person's so little. You know what I'm saying? But they got these words that, you know what I'm saying, like, many adults would be shy to say, right? And this is something, subhanAllah, that we really need to be mindful of amongst our young and our youth. And even sometimes, I even see sometimes brothers wearing khamis, got a beard. And he's talking like he's, from the streets. And then he is surprised when his little brother or sister talk like that. And we should be very, very mindful of that, brothers and sisters. Right? And this is a part, like I said, this is the main theme of this surah, is the dangers of the tongue. Right? Because the two that are just mentioned, the Humazah and Lumazah, those aren't the only things that you can do wrong with your tongue. So easy. It's so easy. It's so easy when you get into an argument with your wife to just say whatever because you're angry. It's so easy for the wife to say whatever to her husband, to be disrespectful. You don't ever do nothing. You're like this and you're like that, to be demeaning, to be disrespectful. It's so easy. Oftentimes it's so easy to tear and break things down, and no doubt that's especially true with the tongue. You can build people up and you can tear them down. It's very, very dangerous. Now let's find out to protect us. So now he goes on, right? Right? He says, الَّذِي جَمَعَ مَالًا وَعَدَّدًا يَحْسَبُ أَنَّ مَالَهُ أَخْلَدًا. Right? So these two ayats. The first one being the one who's gathered wealth and counted it. And this is essentially someone who is preoccupied with collecting wealth and continually counting it. And some of the Mufassirin, they mentioned not only is this person overly concerned with, preoccupied, and that's all they're thinking about is getting the bag. That's what's on their mind all the time. Not only is that all that they're thinking about, but also right? That they're continually trying to count it, constantly checking their bank account. First thing in the morning, before they go to sleep, while they're at work. Sometimes just refreshing on the app or on the website, as if like in between those few seconds, there's more money's going to come in. And so, subhanAllah. And the thing about it is, intrinsically, in and of itself, money, wealth is not bad. In and of itself. It's neutral. It's how you handle it, what you do with it, right? How you attain it, and then how you dispense it and how you use it, right? That's what's going to determine whether it's good or bad. And then subhanAllah, for the believer, the thing about wealth, it should be here. It should be right here. And it should never be here. So if Allah blesses you, that you have a lot of money, alhamdulillah. If you work hard, etc., and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, blesses you through the fruits of your labor, and He gives you rizq, alhamdulillah. But if you don't have, an amass a whole lot of wealth, or better, or even sometimes, and this is actually the overwhelming majority of people, is that they don't get massive amounts of wealth, and even still, it's still entrenched in their heart because they want it so bad, and they sacrifice and do so much work and overtime. And not only I work, my wife works, and we're both gone, and we're trying to get, and we're trying to collect, and we're trying to, and we're trying to, right? Beyond what is necessary, and that becomes their whole focus. If the man is like that, most likely what is his spouse going to be like? And if the parents are like that, what are their kids going to be like when it comes to money? That's all that's all it's about. Matter of fact, oftentimes when you talk to young people, right, and no doubt this is because this is what is inculcated into them by their parents, is when you ask them, what do you want to go to school for? They'll say, I want to get such and such a job. Why do you want that particular job? Because it makes a lot of money. They have no aspirations, no altruism, not what I want to give back to the community. I want to help others. There's a need in the ummah that there's a gap in the ummah, and I want to fill that gap, and I want to help and give back. I want to pay it forward. You don't hear that. Most of the time you hear, I want to get the bag. I want to get the money. I'm trying to level up. Or we want to be a power couple. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. And again, there's nothing wrong with being wealthy. Being righteous, being pious, does not equate being broke. But you do not sacrifice your faith and your spirituality and your being at the altar of money. That's what we mean when that is in your hand and not in your heart. Matter of fact, the Prophet ﷺ, to finish on this point, he says in another hadith, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ أَسْلَمَ وَاقْتَفَى وَاقْتَنَى. That successful or guaranteed, certain, is the success of those who surrender and submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Waqtafa, right? And they are satisfied, like they have enough. Not excess, not too much, not too little. They're not completely broke, and they're not excessively wealthy. They have enough. I have my housing, I have my car to get me from point A to point B. I have what I need for my clothes. My kids go to sleep, alhamdulillah, with food in their bellies. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. That's alhamdulillah, that's enough. Right? Tafa. And then not only that, and they are satisfied with that. They're satisfied with that. They don't have this like insatiable thirst and hunger for materialism and wealth. What? But the person who, الَّذِي جَمَعَ مَالًا وَعَدَّدَ, this person has an insatiable thirst and hunger for material. And not only that, he's counting it all the time. And some scholars, they even say, not only does he count it, something even more reprehensible is he counts it in front of poor people. And somebody might say, and I remember when I first heard that, I was like, when would somebody be like counting their money in front of poor people? And you know who I thought of? A famous boxer. Because it was one of the first times I had ever seen him. Floyd Mayweather. I remember when I was growing up seeing him, right? He would do some of the most outlandish things, brothers and sisters. He would take money and flush it in the toilet. He would take money and flush it. He would take money and just be like, right? He'd have like a whole table, right? And just be sitting, right? And talking and conversating with all of his money there, like cash. Stacks and stacks of cash. Which easily was like millions of dollars, right? But he would be like flashing it in front of people. Like, yeah, this is who I am. You know what I mean? This is what I get. Look at what I do. This is who I am. Da, 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 da. And then, of course, now in today's time, how popular is that? You'll see so many people like with the bands, where they got the money, like it's like a big old fan, right? When you see people with the money on social media, on Instagram, on Snapchat, or whatever, right? Where they're like showing off that money. No.
50 Cent.
Get rich or die trying. You know, I need that he's saying what? That's the number one priority over everything else. Tell you. And so they just gave you a down, so we just say a couple more minutes, inshallah. يَحْسَبُ أَنَّ مَالَهُ أَخْلَدَ. And they think that money, they're so attached to it that they are deluded to think that it will cause them to live forever. يَحْسَبُ أَنَّ مَالَهُ أَخْلَدَ. He thinks that it will cause him to live forever. And this is what Shaitan used to bamboozle and fool our parents out of paradise. Go ahead and eat from the tree. I'm a honest advisor to you. I'm giving you good counsel. I'm telling you. Allah told you don't eat from that tree because if you do, you'll become immortal. You'll live forever. And this is one of the erroneous desires of human beings to want to live forever. And especially those people who do wrong. Right? So now, كَلَّا لَيُنْبَذَنَّ فِي الْحُطَمَةِ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَةِ نَارُ اللَّهِ الْمُوقَدَةِ الَّتِي تَطَّلِعُ عَلَى الْأَفْئِدَةِ إِنَّهَا عَلَيْهِمْ مُؤْصَدَةٌ فِي عَمَدٍ مُمَدَّدَةٍ. And so now, it says, كَلَّا. That's not what it is. You collecting that money, you counting it all the time, your stocks, your bonds, your real estate, right? Your Bitcoin, your cryptocurrency, your wealth, all the cars, the watches, everything that you have, you think that's going to make you live forever? Kalla. It's not what you think it is. That word kalla, that's what that means. It's not like that. It's not what you're thinking and what you're imagining. La yunbadanna fil hutama. But rather, you are going to be thrown. La yunbadanna, you're going to be flung. Fil hutama. And hutama means crushing. And it's a character, it's one of the names of the hellfire. And hutama is that it is crushing, right? So if you've ever seen, Muhammad, let's say for example, you ever seen like a package of crackers, whatever? I remember my dad, when I was growing up, he used to make like chili, and he would have the crackers, and the first thing he would do, that I would do, is I would like crunch them up and then sprinkle them all in the chili. And but that crushing it though, and disintegrated it. This is what the hellfire does to people, right? And one of the names is Al-Humazah, that it crushes. And that's one of the characteristics of the fire, right? وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَةُ. And what's going to let you know what this crushing fire is? نَارُ اللَّهِ الْمُوقَدَةِ. This is the fire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? In this life, fire requires certain things, and there's a certain physics to it. It needs oxygen, right? To, to continue to blaze and so on, right? But the fire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Yawm al-Qiyamah and the hellfire needs no such thing. It has two fuels, right? Ya ayyuhan nas, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Ya ayyuhan nas. Oh, excuse me. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu taqullah. Excuse me. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. O you who believe, save yourselves and your families from a fire whose fuel is what? Men and stone. No. وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. That is the fuel for the hellfire. Human beings and stones. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Right? And then he says, الَّذِي تَطَّلِعُ عَلَى الْأَفْئِدَةِ إِنَّهَا عَلَيْهِمْ مُؤْصَدَةٌ فِي أَمَدٍ مُمَدَّدَةٍ. And this last part we will finish after the salah, inshallah. Right? There's only 2 or 3 more ayat, but they are very, very important to the rest of the surah, inshallah. So, وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. Did it stop you? Oh, it's going to close. You know what? We just want to leave it. I'll just leave it. Brothers and sisters, as much as you can, straighten your lines, fill in the gaps, and also fill in those gaps between your feet. And some people might look at that as being like you're doing too much. That straightening of the rows, that shoulder to shoulder, that foot to foot. Somebody might think like, why is that? And this is because when we're praying, it is a part and parcel of perfecting your prayer. If you ever went to the gym, if you ever played a sport, we talk about the fundamentals, good technique. Whenever you do this. Right? When you're doing your job, you're supposed to be diligent, careful, keen, meticulous, do it the right way. Same for Salah. It's supposed to be the right way. Better yet, it should be even more so, because this is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah accept this. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta 'alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. ويل لكل همزة لمزة الذي جمع ماله وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده كلا لينبذن في الحطمة وما أدراك ما الحطمة نار الله الموقدة التي تطلع على الأفئدة إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. admire these people, they have a tremendous warmth in Allah. And the way you're doing, and this is a battle with your hands. And you're a mechanic, use your hands. And subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that if you're one of these people who have this characteristic or the other, Al-Humazah or Al-Humazah, then be forewarned. Know that there is something terrible waiting for you. And Allah protect us from that. And not only this, that's the first thing. Yani futur al-lisan. And the Prophet ﷺ mentions, listen, if you can guarantee me two things, I will guarantee you Jannah. If you are careful and you protect. Now, then in the end, what is between your two jaws? This right here, from your jaw. This is your name. One, two. And what's in between us? Your tongue. He said, if you can be careful with that one, and you guarantee for me what you do, and you guarantee for me which is between your legs that come from Allah, and your intimate parts, if you protect that one, and you only use for halal, and you only use this one for halal, the Prophet said, when you guarantee those two, I will guarantee you Jannah. And then showing you what the dangers of this. And what makes it even more dangerous is it's not like stealing. Careful if you want to see, not playing sport, to hurt somebody, to kill somebody physically. That takes a lot of courage. You have to fight, you have to be angry. You know, when people are sitting in the coffee shop and they're just talking about things. How many times do we call it the house and they talk about people? It's an honor. Wow, Number two, الذي جمع ماله وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده. This person who is over-consumed with money. That's his number one himma, aliyah fi hayatihi. Even we're supposed to make dua, right? Allahumma la taj'al al-dunya. Please Allah, don't make this dunya akbar hamna. That it's the most important thing in my life. Don't make it like that. How many people in their heart to do that, to get money for their bank account? Huh? How many people they love stuff from us? They used to live in Cedar Riverside. Huh? You know Cedar Riverside? And then alhamdulillah, they were able to move. After years of cab driving, finally I got my own little business. Finally I got my tax business. Finally I became a truck driver. Finally I got this. Then they got a nice car. Then they got a nice thing. Some people, they say, I'm safe. I have enough for my family. That's it. Some people, they say, what is it, 2024? Well, 2024, I like it, that's not it. And then when the next one comes out, because my neighbor, he has the 2024, I have to get the 2025. And then when they get the 20, I have to get the 2026. And then when they get down, I have to get the Tesla. And then when I get the Tesla, then when they get down too, then I have to get the, I have to get the Range Rover. And then my kids, it's not enough that they have $50, $60, $50. Every time they have to buy them $300, $500. And it's never enough, because that stuff is not free. That means dad has to do what? He has to work. And he doesn't just get to work, he has to work overtime. And it's not just enough one job that there's three, then a side hustle, and another business. And then I have another business back home. And then after that business, then I'm going to open a hotel. And after I open the hotel, that's okay. And then I'm trying to see what we're doing. Don't believe this is important in this world, but don't make it like no. You don't make it your duties concerned. Because then, how are you going to protect your children with you and get them if you are working all day? If you are working 24/7? How do you even know? If you are here 9 months out of the year, 10 months out of the year, and you have kids back home, and you only see them for 2 months, and you have family here, and you have a wife here. Yeah. Is that true? Some people they do that one. They have family here, they're here for 10 months. They have another family here, they go see them for 2 months. How will you protect your children? See them? في شهرين. So that's a whole other story. So I'll leave that one alone. But it's not enough to do. Don't make that your reason. That's about another problem. Once that becomes their biggest priority, they think that's what because the problem is that what we were sorry for you must do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He develops the womb, the fetus in the womb. ويرسل إليه الملك, and then He sends to that womb, that little piece, that little piece of meat, that's a little baby inside the womb of the mother, and He tells that angel right down for it, ويؤمر بأربع كلمات, بكتب أربع كلمات, بكتب, يا جماعة, do you know? بكتب رزقه وعمله وما شاف الجسر شقي أو سعيد. بكتب رزقه, the risk for your baby, for your son, for your daughter. I promise you, they will not die. They will not die. For the last even for yourself, if you think that's what's going to protect you and save you. It's all right. Yes, so what I'm not about you. Don't think that. Allah says, tell them, it's not like that. It's not what you think. Those people who they say like that, they will be thrown in the hellfire. The one who's doing that, the one who's doing that, the one that maybe Jama'ah Amal or I did that, you think that it's going to save them and keep them forever? They're going to be thrown in this crushing fire. Hope I'm not. And it's not Jahannam. It's one of the names of the hellfire, and they crush it. Now Allah and it's going to be fire that belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Single by two stones. And then the fire على الأفئدة. And this fire, والعياذ بالله, will burn all the way to the heart. We're talking about that inshallah. So it will burn all the way to the heart. And then there are these, they are encapsulated, they are like trapped. And there's the Amma, meaning they are trapped. There's doors, but there's no way out. They cannot get out. Imagine someone in a house that's burning. What are they thinking when the house is burning? And they are trapped somewhere in a car or in the house. What are they thinking? So not only are they physically being burned, psychologically, they are trying to run away. They are trying to, maybe I will get away. Maybe if I try this one, maybe if I do this one, maybe if I open this one, maybe it's not. I didn't know. He's honestly.
Yeah. No, that's not.
Huh? Yeah, you can wait, inshallah. Just give me like 5 more minutes, inshallah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, no, I. Actually, it's, if you have the brothers, if the brothers, they can bring it up here, and then the sisters, they can do that back there.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay, yeah, promise, inshallah. Booty kafi. طيب, bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So just to wrap things up here, we only have ayahs number 4 through 9, inshallah. But it's بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم كلا لينبغن في الحطمة وما أدراك ما الحطمة نار الله الموقدة التي تطلع على الأفئدة إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, as we already mentioned, right? Those people who think that wealth, their money, their cars, their boats, their properties, etc., is what's going to cause them to live forever. Allah says, totally pushing back and rejecting that. It's not what you think. No, you are sadly and sorely mistaken. Kalla. But y'all are going to be thrown and flung, right, into the hellfire. And this crushing fire. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَةُ. And what's going to let you know what this fire is, right? نَارُ اللَّهِ الْمُوقَدَةُ. This fire that it is, and Allah, He attributes it to Himself, that it is His fire, and we said that it is kindled, and the fuel for it is men and stones, as is mentioned elsewhere, but that it leaps to the hearts, right? التي تطلع على الأفئدة. And what I wanted to mention about that when I was preparing for this, you know, when somebody gets burned, there's a range of burns, right? There's a 1st degree burn, 2nd degree burn, 3rd degree burn, and there's actually even a 4th degree. So there's different layers to a person's skin. There's the epidermis, there's the dermis, and there's the hypodermis. And then after that is muscle, and what they call fascia and bones. When they get a mild burn, where it's just red and maybe a little bit of blistering, that's on the top part of your skin. That's a 1st degree burn. That's on that top part. When it goes beyond that, and that's that 1st degree burn. When it goes beyond that, and it goes deeper, and it burns that 1st layer, and it goes into the 2nd layer, your dermis, and that's thicker, right? That's a 2nd degree burn. And that is extremely painful. That's extremely painful, and that's when you start seeing, right, indentations, and it's sunken in wherever that is, right, because it's eating away, right, at that skin and that tissue. And then you have the hypodermis, that's where your nerve endings, right, are, your veins and whatnot, fat tissue. Once it even reaches that part, you don't even feel it, you can't even feel it anymore. That's the 3rd degree burn. And in a 4th degree, right, that goes even further. That's actually when it burns into your muscle and potentially even into the bone, right? That's probably something we don't commonly hear about. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because the burning that is happening, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, He doesn't mention here like He does in other places, right? That their julud will be burned, and then it will be replaced, and then it will be burned again, and then it will be replaced. He doesn't mention that. He says, التي تطلع على الأفئدة, but that it burns their hearts. And the scholars, they explain part of why that is. Now, obviously, if it's burning the heart, then it's burning through all other stuff. Their face, their organs, right? Tissue, burning through everything till it reaches the heart. But why mention the heart specifically? Because that person who has a wicked, vile, cursing, lying tongue, this person who is Humazah, this person who is Lumazah, right? Where is that coming from? Why is he talking like that? But why? Why? Where is that coming from? That's on his tongue.
heart is poison.
Whatever's on his tongue is simply articulating what is in his heart. It is simply, the venom that he's spitting is coming from the poison in his heart or her heart. And of course, and I almost forgot, when we talked about the dangers of the tongue and we talked about lying, Al-Humazah, even greater than all of those is shirk. That someone makes shirk with their tongue. So then, again, when their heart is being burned, the aqidah that they have, aqidah fasida, the belief that they might have, erroneous, that there's other gods, Buddha, Krishna, Shiva, Brahma, Zeus, whatever it is, or they're atheists or whatever, but that all goes back to their what? Their heart. And the same with them being consumed with materialism and money and them moving back and forth, spending, buying, trading, whatever, and being completely consumed with that, with their hands and their body and their mind and that thinking, that goes back to their what? Their heart. And as such, right, that is why all of it will be burned, and especially the heart. Because that is the root of it. Right? That is the root of it. And there's a few things that we need to do, brothers and sisters, to protect, purify, and rectify our hearts. One of the first things, and it's very important, is a tawbah. Is constantly, consistently returning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As I've mentioned numerous times, the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam here, all right, كل بني آدم خطاء وخير الخطائين التوابون. That all of the sons of Adam and all of the daughters of Adam, every last one of them makes mistakes, no matter how big their beard is, no matter if they're wearing a burqa or mutahajjiba, or they don't have, or that all of the sons of Adam, Hafid al-Quran, cab driver, Uber driver, Target cashier, doesn't matter. All of them. Doctor, lawyer, every last one of them, they make mistakes. Every last one of them make mistakes. He said, however, the best of them, right? The best of them that make the mistakes are those that are characterized as being tawabun. If you wanted to describe them, they look like this is how tall they are, this is what they look like, this is their hair texture. You describe it because that's who they are, right? Physically. But morally, who they are, a part of who they are, when you want to describe who they are someone who are always making tawbah and going back to Allah. As such, they are characterized as being tawabun. Meaning they don't just do it once in a while or sometimes. They're doing it all the time. This is one of the best things to rectify, purify your heart. Because if tawbah is accepted, what is somebody described as? How did the Prophet ﷺ describe it? As being like what, if their tawbah is accepted?
They're conscious.
That they're what?
They're conscious of Allah.
Oh, no doubt, they'll be conscious of Allah for sure. But let's say, for example, if you make Hajj, Mabrur, what is it like? They're described as what? Kayomi. Now? Like the day they were born. How many sins does a newborn baby have? How much zambi and ma'asiyah? Nothing. Tawbah, the same thing. Tawbah, tajubu ma qablahu, that it wipes out and obliterates whatever came before it. Whatever sins, whatever mistakes, min al-kaba'ir wa sagha'ir. But for the kaba'ir, you must make tawbah. But it obliterates those things and wipes them out. It purifies your heart and rejuvenates your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's number one. Number two is having a regular wird of the Quran. A regular daily wird. Not weekly, not bi-weekly, not monthly. Have a regular wird of the Quran. Not because it's Ramadan and you want to finish the juz. Think about it like preventative medicine. Right? So, for example, Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, he mentions in his book, and we've gone through some of those chapters here, Ad-Daw wa Dawa, the disease and the cure. The disease and the cure, or Al-Jawab al-Kafi, or Jawab al-Kafi liman sa'ala an al-Dawa al-Shafi. The sufficient answer for the one who is asking for, right, for the sufficient cure. Right? He mentions some of the most potent and important things that you need to do on a regular basis is a recitation of Quran and a dua. Not because you had a problem, not because there was a tragedy in your life, but because it is necessary on a daily basis. That it is a part and parcel of the cure for the sins that we have, the issues that we have, the anxiety that we have, the depression that we might have, the worries, all of those different things, our desires, doubts. A regular dose of the Quran is what you need to rectify your heart. Because that's Allah's speech, that's Allah talking to you, and then of course the dua, which is the other side of the conversation, you talking to, begging, asking Allah, speaking to Him regularly. Not once in a while, again, not when tragedy strikes, or even just when something great happens, but all of the time. Just like when you take vitamins. Do you take vitamins when you're sick? Yeah, Jamal, do you take vitamins when you're sick? No, you take it what? On a regular basis, right? Part of a healthy diet. Preventative, right? And so, this is for your heart. So we said three things. Tawbah, regular recitation of the Quran, whether it's 1 page a day, 2 pages a day, a juz a day. Even I had a student, right? Half of the Quran. I asked him, how much muraja do you make? He said, minimum I read, and he's, by the way, he's 13 years old. He said, minimum I read 3 juz a day. 3 juz. I felt embarrassed. Hold on, he said, 3 juz a day. He's 13 years old. I said, Allahu Akbar, how long does that take you? He said, maybe 1.5, 2 hours. I said, 1.5, 2 hours. Every day? Every day. Allahu Akbar. But that might not be where you're at. That might not be where you're at, and that's okay. Like I said, 2 pages after Fajr, a page after Isha, but something regular. This is the important thing. أَحَبُّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَدْوَمُهَا وَإِنْ قَلَّ. The most beloved actions to Allah are those that are consistent, even when they're small. So we keep going then. This heart that consumes the fire that consumes the heart. نَارُ اللَّهِ الْمُقَدَّةِ. That these pillars that are stretched, إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة. So verily it shall be closed up on them. We said that they will be surrounded and trapped, right? And I described a little bit earlier, like being in a house, right? And how this has a twofold type of punishment. One, they're being punished by being burned, right? And subhanallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from ever having to experience this, but if you've maybe ever seen in a movie or something like that, where, see a house being burnt up or whatever, right? And the people, they're trying to get out the doors, the windows, whatever, right? And in their minds, they're thinking, either I gotta get out, or hopefully what? No, I'm trying to get out. However, jump out through the door, through the window, whatever. Or what? Somebody saves them. That's what they're thinking. That's what's running through their minds. But, right? Now imagine, if they're trapped, if they were stuck, if in their haste and in their fear, they're trying to open the door with the key and the key broke. Or that nobody was close enough to save them. Imagine not only the pain, but also the psychological trauma, the emotional trauma, what's happening in their heart and in their mind. This is what is happening to the people in the hellfire. And it's not just, it's over and over and over again. And they don't, because you have 3 different potential outcomes that they would be thinking. A, I get away. B, somebody's going to come and save me. Or lastly, at the very least, it's going to come to an end. I'm dead and it's over and it's finished. None of those. None of those. Because once it's finished, the pain, they can't get away. Nobody's coming to save them or help them. And it's not going to be over. Because once they're burned, all the way through that skin that we mentioned, all the way through the bone and the organs, all the way to their heart, they're refashioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all over again. There is no end to it. Right? And then as far as these pillars, these stretched out pillars, Allahu a'lam, are they from iron, are they from wood, what are they made of? Allahu a'lam, because that's from the knowledge of the ghaib. And there are different opinions as to what is the role that these pillars will have in the hellfire. Some say, from the scholars of Tafsir, that the people will be inside those pillars. So that's how they're completely surrounded and they're just being burned over and over again inside these tall structures, these pillars. Some say no, that they will be tied up on the pillar as they're being burned and they can't move and they can't do anything. And then, of course, and that it will be happening over and over again. Some will say that they will be hung from those, right, from those pillars. At the end of the day, Allahu Akbar. Although they have all those different opinions, Allahu Akbar. What should all concern all of us is that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from it altogether. I don't want to know the details, Sheikh. I don't want to know. I don't want to. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. And so now, what are some of the benefits and the lessons that we learn from that? So again, we repeat the dangers of the tongue and how detrimental that can be to an individual, how it can be to families and communities, that it can cause communities to be ripped apart. There are many places that's mentioned in the Quran, specifically in that context of like community, especially if you look at Surah Al-Hujurat, and I would encourage you to do so. It's a very short surah, but it talks about many of the things that people do with their tongue that is a cause and a means of ripping apart the community, right? Whether it's ghiba, whether it's la yaskhar qawmun min qawmin, a sukhriya, mocking, making fun, I'm better than you, I'm from this tribe, I'm from this clan, I'm a doctor, what are you? I'm wealthy, you don't got nothing. Who are those people? They're nobody. We're Arabs. We're supposed to be the one. So many different sukhriya, mocking and belittling and thinking that you're bigger than somebody. So many different things. But I would encourage you to go back if you want to learn some more details about the dangers of the tongue. This is number one. Number two, the dangers of materialism. The dangers of materialism and how it distracts people from their purpose. Our purpose here is to worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and material and money and wealth is supposed to be our servant. It's supposed to serve our purpose. And our purpose is to worship Allah, so it's supposed to serve that purpose. The money that I have, I use, right, to take care of myself and my responsibilities and the charge that I have, my family, my kids, my wife, my loved ones, the community, those that are less fortunate, right, orphans, etc., serving Allah. Bus. That's what it's supposed to be for. The moment it moves from your hands and reaches your heart, it is deadly. Materialism, commercialism, capitalism, this is deadly. May Allah protect us from this. The other thing is our belief in the hellfire. And that the belief of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, right, is that it is real, that it is not some type of figment of imagination or some, imagination type place, or that it'll be a punishment of the mind, right? There are some groups who ascribe themselves to Islam who say that. So for example, like you'll have the nation, for example, that says, right, that the black man has already experienced hell on earth. Right? And that paradise is that they'll experience it in this life. They don't think of it as like you die and you go into another reality. But the belief of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the belief of those who follow the Quran, the Sunnah, and the understanding of the Salaf, is that what? That it is created, that it is real, that it is present right now, and there are many descriptions right here in this surah itself, and all throughout the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. and that it is made for those people who are Humazah, Lumazah, the materialistic, those type of things, and the importance and the place of the heart. Another benefit is the importance and the place and the role of the heart, because that is the driving force for your tongue. That is the driving force for your hands. That is the driving force for your actions. كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, when he mentioned, right, إن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. He said, listen, there's a piece, there's this little morsel of flesh in the body. If it's good, if it's clean, if it's pure, then the rest of the body is going to be good, clean, and pure. But if it's corrupted, if it's spoiled, if it's vile, and it's wicked, then know for sure that the body is going to follow suit. The body's going to be spoiled, vile, and wicked. Ala wa hiya al-qalb. It is most certainly the heart. It is the heart. And the analogy that scholars give is like the relationship between a general and his soldiers. A general, what is his job in relation to soldiers? What does he do? He gives them commands. He gives orders. And then what is the job of the soldiers in relation to the commander? To execute the orders. Whatever they're told, the commands, whatever they're told to do, that's what they do. I'm just a soldier. I follow orders. The heart is the general. Your eyes, your ears, and in relation to this surah, your tongue, your hands, your feet, all of them, they are simply soldiers, and they're just doing whatever the commander, the general, the admiral, whatever he told them to do. So if your hands are doing good things, that's indicative of what? That shows and indicates what, y'all?
Good heart.
Good heart. If your feet are carrying you to good places, that's indicative of what, y'all? If your tongue is saying good, positive things, that's indicative and that shows a what? A good heart. And if your tongue is Humazah, then that's indicative of the opposite. والله أعلم. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He bless us to take what is mentioned here as beneficial, that we take it and implement it and apply it in our lives. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send His peace and blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his pure family, his good companions, and all those who follow them in righteousness until the last day. We also ask Him, the Lord of the magnificent throne, that He protect our tongues and that He not make this dunya our greatest concern, but rather that it be a servant for our true purpose, and that is to serve and to worship and to glorify and to praise Him and Him alone, Ya Rabbal Alameen. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to take the best of what was said here and to apply Ya Rabbal Alameen. Wait, so do you have a question?
Yeah. Excuse me, I was just going to say shit. I heard somewhere and read that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said He don't change the person's situation till they change.